do. I hope I'm wrong.
Difference in the Pacers-Knicks series is going to be what?
I think that is going to be a lot closer. I think both of those teams now, the Pacers play quick. The Knicks don't necessarily play quick. But I've been telling you this for a week and a half now because it seems like, this has been the inevitable for a week and a half, waiting for that Celtics series to be over and the Cavs being terrible. Colin, the Pacers play fast. The Knicks don't, but they're both very physical teams. They're very physical. If the Knicks can survive playing their players, their 6 players, 40 minutes a game for 7 more games, I think they win this series. I'll go Knicks in 7 there. I know that they're not playing tonight, but if I had a series prediction, I think the Knicks can win.
What's going to be the difference?
Games. I think the difference is Jalen Brunson. I think that they're going to, when it push comes to shove in a close game, I think Jalen Brunson is going to be able to overcome and be that guy for New York. We've seen it against the Celtics. What was it? The two first games of the second round was it 20-point leads for the Celtics?
Right.
And Brunson and company were able to overcome that. I think there's something to be said there. Now,
there's something to be said about the exact other side.
I was about to say, I was going to give them their flowers here. Even though the Pacers won in 5 games, that 7-point victory, I don't give them that because that was just as fluky as it gets.
Well, it happened twice. It happened twice in 3 games.
I give them credit for being able to beat a team like Cleveland, who was the better team, and punch them in the mouth. They are playing the ultimate spoiler role this playoff.
I think it's Minnesota. That's it. But you don't. I understand where you're coming from. My perspective is you can't say fluky when they come back from 7+ because they did it to 2 different teams in 3 different in 3 games apart. They did it against Milwaukee to close them out, and then they did it in Game 2 against Cleveland. So this team is not championship coded, but clutch coded. So are the Knicks. I agree. I think this will be a very long, grinded out series, and it might come down to health. But I think the offensive output of what Indiana has to offer comparatively to the Knicks in terms of consistent waves of offensive pressure, I think that's going to be a difference. Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns, who has been relatively inconsistent, versus Siakam, who's a champion, and Miles Turner. I would favor the bigs on that side on Indiana. And then you go guard for guard. Haliburton's been as good of a player as anybody in this postseason, especially late game. He probably hasn't been as good as Brunson by a sliver, but you're looking at splitting hairs between the 2 great guards on either side. And then if you want to go through the supporting roles, the Knicks have 3 other guys, and the Pacers have a little bit of a bench that they use. So you're going to talk about waves. The Knicks like to come at you with 1 or 2 great quarters, and they hope that their defense and toughness can keep them above water for the other 2 quarters of the game. The Pacers can give you 4 quarters. I'm not sure if the Knicks can. They did in Game 6 against the Celtics to close them out. That was the best game they've had this postseason. But a lot of it has been, we're hanging around. Now it's time to kick into second gear. That would make me a little nervous about where the Knicks would stand.
I think it's time to give Thibodeau a lot of credit, too. You said the other matchup might come down to coaching. I think this might as well. I mean, Rick Carlisle is a NBA champion coach, and Tom Thibodeau, I think it's the only thing he's missing at this point, no? I think he is going to throw everything in the kitchen sink to get to an NBA Finals.
Well, they have. That's what they did in building.
And I think that a storyline going into this one can be Thibodeau getting over the edge or
I don't view Thibodeau in that sense, though. He doesn't have a lot of number 1 overall seeds. He's always been a middling playoff coach. I mean, if he's that guy who's like, the Shanahan of the world, who's like desperate to get a title, I don't necessarily think I view him in that sense.
And maybe he doesn't view himself as that either, but I think Carlisle versus Thibodeau is interesting. I do. I think that coaching matchup is interesting.
Yeah, the thing about it is the Knicks are not going to change anything. The Knicks are going to be the Knicks. They were the Knicks. The same Knicks were Game 1 versus Game 6 of the Celtics. It was more the same in terms of rotations. They might have changed how much they play Anthony Towns with Mitchell Robinson, but other than that, it was a lot of the same if they were on or off. I give Carlisle credit because they were able to adjust mid-game. They did it against Cleveland in Game 2, as we alluded to. They did it in Game 5. They had their moments where they were able to adjust. This is going to be a chess battle, but also a battle of brutes. I think the offensive output, I'd lean, because the Celtics couldn't close. They couldn't score and they couldn't close. Now, maybe the Pacers go cold. And maybe they can't beat the Knicks two years in a row. But I think just on paper versus on paper, what we've seen versus what we've seen, the Pacers have been more impressive.
How much does Cat help in this, though? I think Cat gives the Knicks something that they didn't have last year in this series.
Absolutely. But the Pacers are better than last year, too.
They are.
The Pacers are much better defensively. They couldn't guard anybody last year. And now all of a sudden, Nembhard is their starting two guard is one of the best guarding shooting guards in the league.
Does that keep up with Nembhard and all these role players for Indiana? So they're
playoff risers.
I can't believe how well they played this.
And they've played well last year too. They're playoff risers. It's bizarre.
Cannot believe how well those guys have played.
There's some teams that are. It's almost like they're championship coded. It's got a little Miami to it. Everybody sort of raises a level when the postseason comes. I think that's dangerous. I think that's reliable in a sense. But we'll see what happens if